Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy Jonathan Macri with you for another episode, a midweek episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. I feel like I've done so few of these this year, especially the sort of pod that we're going to do right now, because it's just been a wild. It's been a wild schedule, and there's a lot of stuff always going on. But I'm happy to hop on here midweek. These pods always have a little bit of a different feel for me, and I very much enjoyed doing them, especially today. Because today is a pod that was going to feature our regularly scheduled guest, Fred Katz. You may have heard of him. World famous Katz and Shoot. I believe he also writes occasionally for some publication or another. But Fred Katz is, well, he's here, but he's not here. And to explain what the F I'm talking about, I'm going to bring on my trusty buddy, Andrew Claudio.
Trusty buddy. The list of titles that just keeps growing for me here at Knicks Film School. I swear. Hi, pal. How you doing? I'm happy. Yes. Well, no, just like I'll just update my resume is what that has to do. I don't think I'm at the point where I'm career safe, so I'm not like trying to update my resume that often. But hey, trusty buddy is something I was not prepared for. I'm good, John. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. I'm happy we're more than halfway through this week. If I can I be like daytime John for a second?
Yes, please.
I think you know this, or maybe you don't. I don't even know. I, as a proud teacher,
I do know you're a teacher.
Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
In the New York City Department of Education, I co-teach all of my classes with two different co-teachers. Well, one of those co-teachers is out for a few weeks, leaving me by my lonesome with several rooms full of young people, which this may shock people because I'm always in front of a microphone here. I do not feel comfortable at the front of a classroom. It's not where I want to spend my time. Like being all up in the small groups, a little one-on-one work here or there. That's where I like to exist as a teacher. Well, that's not my existence right now, and it will not be my existence for the foreseeable future as my one of my co-teachers recovers from a procedure she had. So yeah, I'm definitely in the place of like, is it Friday yet? So happy to, all the more reason I'm happy to pod with you right now.
Have you told any of your students that was the dumbest question of the year yet? Or that they don't care about learning?
Because how great would it be if somebody was like, did something?
Yeah, or actually been like, appreciate the contribution or something like that.
You know? I have said something to the effect of like, you do not care about your education in probably nicer terms. So what are we doing today, Andrew?
So as John mentioned, I'll take over for a minute. As John mentioned, this was normally our Fred Katz appearance of the week. We've been having him on pretty much every other week here at Knicks Film School throughout the season. Originally, when Fred and I a couple of weeks ago looked at the schedule for March, this was the day that we were going to have him on. We do intend to have him on 2 weeks from yesterday when he's back from the road trip. We're going to do one before and one after. The problem is that Fred is currently on a flight to Portland, and we did not factor in when his flight might be. And obviously, daytime John, and his important job teaching the youth of America, or specifically in New York City, was not able to get away to do a pod. We're mixing things up today. And instead of John interviewing Fred, what Fred has done is sent in 9 questions for John. So this is a Katz mailbag specifically for John Macri. And I'm going to read them in the form of super chats.
You're going to read them?
Yes, I'm going to read them to you. Okay. In the form of super chats.
We should let I knew that this is what we were doing today. I have not been made privy to any of the questions. The only thing I know is Fred texted and said, is there any limit to how ridiculous these questions can get? And I said, no, the more ridiculous, the better. So that's all I know about what's coming.
Are you ready for your first question?
Probably not.
Okay. Well, this is for $3 from Fred Katz. The Knicks' identity transformed on Tuesday, immediately upon Anunoby's return. True or false? Jalen Brunson is the best player on the Knicks, and Julius Randle is even the second best player on the Knicks, but OG Anunoby is the most important player for the Knicks to keep their identity.
That's a oh my God, what's the stupid law school example for this? How many times did you beat your wife? That's that question, because it implies something. The question implies something, and the way he phrased that question, which is, and read the last part of the question again, only the last part.
Is OG Anunoby the most important player for the Knicks to keep their identity?
Okay, so there's two parts to that, and he's trying to be sly here right off the bat, which I do not appreciate, Mr. Katz. Is OG Anunoby the Knicks' most important player? No, of course not. OG Anunoby is not the Knicks' most important player, because Jalen Brunson is the Knicks' most important player. But the second part is tacked on there to make me kind of a little queasy here, because for the Knicks to keep their identity, what is the Knicks' identity? I would argue, actually, if I'm really going to be a little stickler, that the moment the Knicks signed Jalen Brunson, the Knicks' identity became this is Jalen Brunson's team. That's their identity. Everything else revolves around the sun that is Jalen Brunson. And some planets may be more important than other planets in the ecosystem of the solar system. In this analogy that I'm slowly losing grasp of, he is still the sun, and that will not change. Now, if you want to make an argument to me that like the Knicks' identity is so steeped in defense and hard-nosed play, and their ability to make the lives of their opponents a living hell, like, yeah, okay, sure, obviously OG Anunoby is the most important player to that specifically, but like the only reason we're talking about I'll give you this example. What's the identity of the Detroit Pistons, or who is the player that defines the identity of the Detroit Pistons? Guess what? Nobody gives a shit, because the Detroit Pistons suck. The only reason we're asking this question, the only reason this question has value, that it has meaning, is because of Jalen Brunson. So, sorry, Fred, you're not tripping me up on the first one.
On your game today. Okay. Well,
I came ready.
We'll see if that continues. Question number 2, or super chat number 2 from Fred Katz for $7.43. Let's say Randall is back and Mitchell Robinson is not. Pretend you're Tom Thibodeau. And then he adds, please, John, keep it in your pants during this hypothetical. You're not actually Tom Thibodeau. It's the start of the second quarter of a playoff game. What is your second unit? Do you continue to run OG with the reserves? Do you try someone new there? And I want to repeat, you are not actually Tom Thibodeau, but pretend that you have his decision power here.
In what, like, who has a person that they idolize? Like, if you have someone that you idolize, you don't want to be that person, right? Like, let's even take the sexual part out of it. Like if I, for
take
like
the sexual part out of it, you got it.
So we're not talking about Scarlett Johansson here. I shouldn't say, I can't use that example anymore, because she's married to Mr. Colin Jost,
your friend.
Yes, my good buddy Colin. But let's just keep it like, I don't know, Hugh Jackman. I love Hugh Jackman, big Wolverine fan. I don't want to be Hugh Jackman. I would love to hang out with Hugh Jackman. I'd love to get a beer with Hugh Jackman. Same thing with Tibbs. I don't want to be Tom Thibodeau. Do you want to be someone you idolize?
Listen, I wouldn't mind being Hugh Jackman. That guy's pretty rich. But I think specifically to this analogy, the excitement of being in his shoes and getting to make the decisions that he makes is what Fred is alluding to here.
I wouldn't want to be in Tom Thibodeau's shoes for 1 minute, let alone one day.
One meaningful minute?
They're all meaningful, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
There are no such thing as unmeaningful minutes in the life of Tom Thibodeau. Okay. So we have... Randall's back, Mitch is not.
Randall's back, Mitch is not. What's your second unit?
So it's funny that Fred asked this, and I don't know if he has ESP or if or maybe he read Monday's newsletter, although he's a busy man, so I doubt that. I spent all of Monday going through how an issue that we have been lamenting recently, which is the fact that the Knicks bench can't do anything right, is not really a new issue. I mean, it is and it isn't. In terms of the inability to score, the Knicks bench has been a poor scoring unit going back through the beginning of last season. I went and I actually looked it up earlier today. Their off court, the minutes where Brunson was not on the court last season, I think the bench put up something like 111 points per 100 possessions, which is, I'm pretty sure it was like a bottom 5 number. If not a bottom 5, it was certainly bottom 10. It was towards the bottom of the league. And that you could go look up IQ only minutes. You could go look up IQ and RJ, like all that stuff. And it's carried through to this year. The difference with this year is, whereas that unit, the backup unit last year was elite, and I mean elite defensively, this year it has been good defensively, not quite as good. And the offense, while it was not great last year, bordering on bad, it has become, when Jalen Brunson's not on the floor, the Knicks are scoring, I think, 3 or 4 fewer points per 100 possessions than the worst offense in the league. So why am I going through this whole diatribe? I think if the presumption here in the question is that Jalen Brunson is going to take a little bit of rest at the start of the second quarter, which he should, even in a playoff game, you have to account for the fact that your bench has been able to do nothing all year. Now, another number I looked up earlier today, and it's I don't even want to say it because the sample size is so small. It's like 150 non-garbage time possessions. OG and Randall on the court together, about 114 and change points per 100. So like in the vicinity of a league average offense. Would I go both of those guys at the same time? Then you're really Then you're really stretching yourself thin, because if you're getting Brunson a rest, but like, are you playing like both of those guys the entire first quarter? And then if you are, like, do you then have to play Brunson minutes without either of those guys for a stretch? Which I don't know if I want to do that either. Long story short, I think Randall has to be on the floor for any minutes that Jalen Brunson is not on the floor in this postseason, assuming Randall is some version of himself. And I would play him with, and this presumes that this guy is going to maybe less find his game and more find his game once Julius Randle returns, because I think nobody will be helped more by Julius Randle's return, other than maybe Brunson, than Boyan Bogdanovic. I would play Randle with Bogey. I'll get Deuce in there. It's his first half minute, so I'll get Deuce in there. Mitch is not back?
Mitch is not back. So Precious. Playing next to, okay.
So Precious and Hart. So our 5-man unit is Deuce at the 1, Hart at the 2, Bogey at the 3, essentially, Randall at the 4, Precious at the 5.
Does the shooting there not worry you at all? Or are you, is that a lot of faith in Deuce to be a floor spacer there?
Well, as I'm saying it out loud, it's one of those lineups where it's like you're trying to have your cake and eat it too, and you may get neither. Because you're right, the lineup is not great on spacing, and defensively, like, yes, you have Deuce out there, you have Hart, you have Precious, but you also have Precious at the 5, and Precious at the 5 defensively, I think, kind of ebbs and flows based on who's around him. You put him out there with OG and Deuce and Hart, like all of a sudden that's a different animal. When he's out there with Bogey and Randall, and then, who's your opponent? Are they going to be able to take advantage of Deuce's size? So like, you might not get the benefit of the defense. And then on offense, you're really relying on that Randall Bogey combination. As of right now, though, are you running the offense? Like, you're basically running it through Julius then. I'm spamming that pick and roll.
Would you prefer putting, instead of Hart, putting OG and just making like a really big unit?
So that's what I was trying to tease out before. So let's say you want OG in there. How are you doing that? So that means you are taking.
That's so much size. Jeez.
What?
I'm not even saying it's a bad thing. That's just so much size. He's your 2 in this scenario. Which,
again, you are who you guard. Like if OG's in the corner, like that's fine. Can he guard an opposing team's like a small player on the opposing team. We know he could guard a small player on the opposing team, but then there's the associated questions of like, okay, who's Bogey guarding? Who is Randall guarding? So I think it might be a little matchup specific. The other issue is like the minutes thing. So you're taking OG off probably kind of early-ish in the first quarter, relatively early for a playoff game, like what, 7-8 minute mark, 9 minute mark? Like how much do you want to push this guy? Because if you put him in to start the second, you are probably not taking him off the court, especially since if Randall's in these lineups, will Randall have played the whole first quarter? And now you're trying to bank some time with him. Maybe you pull Brunson off with a minute and a half to go in the first quarter. Like these are legitimately tough decisions. I think they would be a lot easier if we knew that Bogey was going to be Bogey, and that would be a really exciting 2-man game to look forward to. As of now, I don't know. The last thing I will say, I'll just throw it out there. Yeah. You don't need to run Deuce out there. Like if you're running your offense through Bogdanovic and Randall, like Deuce isn't a point guard anyway. Like he's not going to become a point guard in 2 months. That's not happening. So could you put DiVincenzo out there essentially as your nominal one with Hart at the 2, Bogey, Randall, Precious? Like that's interesting to me. But again, if you have if it's another starter, like when are you getting all of these guys rest? That's why it's yes, we could sit here and be like, oh, it's playoff time. Tibbs is going to play, 7.5 guys, 8 guys. For every spot you take away from the rotation, that is another compromise you have to make somewhere along the way as far as when guys are resting. It's a great question. It's a really good question. And then of course the alternative, which I kind of didn't even go down this road, is you don't play Randall or Brunson. I want Randall out there.
I also think the other alternative is Bogey is banished to Fournier land. And Deuce is literally just the first half sub, and then Brunson plays the whole second half.
So again, let's play that out. If Bogey is banished to Fournier land, that means he has been terrible through probably up until the playoffs, and Tibbs is like, all right, I've seen enough of that. Well, then what do you do? So then you have Randall there to generate your offense. Well, how is he generating offense? Because I would say, who's the guy that you want him running? Because you need someone. You don't want just him like posting up. You don't want him like running ISO after ISO. You need to have him in actions with somebody. Who are you having him in actions with? Like DiVincenzo would be the obvious guy, right? Okay, so now that's another starter you need out there. That again, if he's playing those minutes, there are other minutes that you're going to be with Brunson out there. Now, okay, I know I keep saying another consideration. If it is DiVincenzo, and so you're like, all right, that means there's going to be additional minutes where I have to rest both DiVincenzo and Randall together when Brunson's on the floor. That doesn't worry me as much because you could do Brunson, Hart, and Anunoby. Pick a center. I don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
And Deuce, yeah.
Yeah, put him at the 2. It's literally the lineup that they remember when they beat Philly. They first came out the break. That's the lineup that they, and honestly, that's the lineup you play Bogey with. Is you play Bogey at the 4 if you wanted to. Now the Randall of it all complicates it, which is why I think Randall's just going to soak up all of the starting 4 and then maybe all of Bogey's backup 4 minutes, and then Anunoby's your backup 4.
The thing that's most interesting to me and why I don't want people to take this the wrong way, because I want Randall to get back. I want Randall to get back soon. But why I'm really excited to see more of these games with this version of the team before Randall gets back is I wrote it at some point today, either in a Substack chat or in the newsletter. Like with the starting lineup we see right now, this might be the Knicks' new version of their death lineup.
Yeah. And
it doesn't mean you don't need Randall, because like Brunson can't do it all by himself for like entire games, let alone entire weeks or months and all that. So you need Randall back. But like, if we're really sitting here and be like, okay, you're in a 5-minute stretch where you got to you play your absolute best ball. Are we sure that this 5-man unit isn't their 5 best again for a 5, 6, 7-minute stretch? I don't know.
This is where if Tibbs was willing to do it, Randall at the 5 might actually be a consideration. It'll never happen.
Why though?
because then OG can guard your center, and then you're boosting your offense.
I am not there. The offensive rebounding is too intrinsic to the rim protection. Both of those. Look, I'm not saying OG. OG can do as good a job as any non-center in the league, probably protecting the rim, with some exceptions. He could do it, but you're talking about, you don't want to abandon your bread and butter. And I think offensive rebounding and rim protection are still your bread and butter.
Josh Hart couldn't be like, Josh Hart had 19 rebounds last night. Like, I get it. He had a center on at all times, but
I don't want to start compromising on my core values. And to me, and yes, do I sound exactly like Tibbs here? 100%.
You took the question literally. You are Tom Thibodeau. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. But like, there was a reason why this is a core value of his, and I think it's because it works. That is borne out over time. Does it mean there's never going to be a circumstance where you might not want to play Randall at the 5 and go that route? No, of course not. There might be such a moment in a specific type of matchup. But if this is a general question, I'm giving a general answer.
I don't think it's a regular. I would love to see it in the regular season. And look, to be clear, I actually think Randall ends up being your 4 in that spot, and OG. It's what he said last night in the post game. It's positionless. Like, yeah, like you just switch a ton, and maybe the inertia keeps Julius engaged. Look, I think it's a break glass in case of emergency. I agree with you that what we saw last night was. Oh, so do you actually want any of these 4 guys not playing? And then so it's like when Julius comes back, it's why the next couple of weeks will be interesting from just a data collection standpoint. Yeah. Next question. It's a super chat for $3,700.01.
That's great.
The Knicks are 32.4 points per 100 possessions better with OG Anunoby on the court. We keep saying that number has to come down, but it just isn't happening. Will it? And if it doesn't, what does it signify about how good this team is when OG Anunoby is there, considering numbers say that with OG Anunoby on the court, the Knicks will play like by far the best team in the NBA.
I mean, best team of all time times 3. No, I mean, it has to come down. It has to come down. It has to come down. I mean, 32. So, like, I'm trying to think. So I'm kind of want to look. Can I detour for 1 sec?
What are you asking? What are you detouring to?
No, what I'm detouring to is like I don't want to say that this is an insignificant sample size, because it is not. It is not an insignificant sample size. Like that's
15 games. Yeah.
Yeah. It's 15 games. It's like there is something to what we're seeing. If you look right now at the most heavily used 5-man lineup combinations in the sport, like of the top 25 most used in terms of minutes, the top one is not even at plus 20 points per 100 possessions. If you go to the next 25, then you get one that is above 20. That's pretty high. It's plus 34 per 100 possessions. That was the Embiid, like the healthy Embiid starting 5 with Melton, Maxey, Harris, and Batum in 219 minutes. Now, how many minutes did you say the OG lineup had played? Or how many minutes has OG been on the or with them for, like, what, 500, 400 something?
Fred didn't say. He just noted the point per 100 possessions that it's plus 32.4.
Yeah, which factors in the minutes that he's played. So it's 15 games, about what, 40 minutes a game. So maybe like 500 some odd minutes. And then also the minutes he hasn't played. Like plus 32.4. That's obscene. It's going to come down. It has to come down. As for the second part of the question, even if it comes down, the fact that it is this high for this long, I think it just signifies that Leon Rose and his team knew what the hell they were doing. And not to pat ourselves on the back, but like I can't think of how many times, and it's Benji's voice that is in my head when I'm going to say this, but like other people here have said similar things where we have lamented the putting aside the superstar conversation I'm getting another superstar conversation. When we have lamented the flaws of the roster prior to the OG trade, and like we're always like, well, what fixes it? Well, you need a player who does A, B, C, X, Y, and Z. And I picture how many times Benji was like, you need OG Anunoby. Like and he's not one of these guys that was ever like had a hard on to get OG specifically. But when you looked at what the team needed based on the collective skill set and everything else, like he was the one that checked the most boxes by far. And so it kind of checks out that he has come here and had this impact. What else does it mean? It means you pay him whatever you need to pay him to keep him. Means you don't have regrets about the trade. I mean, at this point, honestly, almost regardless of what Quickly or RJ do, and both of those guys have been awesome. But you knew Quickly would be awesome, and like it's not crazy what RJ's doing. To me, at least, it's not. Like we've seen stuff like this before, and he's 23.
Who are you talking about at the moment, Mr. RJ Barrett?
I am talking about Mr. RJ.
Rowan Alexander Barrett Jr.
That guy,
son of parents that may or may not have prepared him well for a life in the public eye.
Jesus Christ.
Just like the 44th president of the United States.
I think you've been drinking.
All water, baby. The next question for Mr. Fred Katz is for $1.5 million in unlikely incentives if KFS produces 500 shows over the next 365 days, and the Knicks make the second round in the playoffs. Let you know now, Fred, we're gonna hit that over. He also asked that Drew from PR be here, but he's not here because he decided a sabbatical. But I did find his glasses, so I'll ask on behalf of Drew. You gave RJ Barrett such a hard time near his end with the Knicks that you literally went viral for transforming into an actual maniac on the internet. Now he has a 61% effective field goal percentage with the Raptors. He just went for 24 points and 10 assists the other night against the defending world champions. He is legit playing in all caps. Great. Based on what you thought of him previously, I think you need to lay out the MIP case for him right here and now. I have no question this time. I have no further questions this time other than, can you make sure Drew from PR is on the line for you to respond? Which, on behalf of Drew, I'll wear his goggles for today.
So I'll say this. If RJ's like, if a season ended the moment that he got traded to the Raptors and his next season was, forget about what he's doing now. If it was 85, maybe 90% of what he's doing now, but he did it over the course of like 65 games or more, because that's what you need to play. You need to play 65 games. He would, in considering the other candidates this year, and specifically considering that the two front runners, I would argue two of the three front runners in Sengun and Jalen Johnson are, Sengun's out for sure in terms of he's not going to qualify, and Jalen Johnson, I think, actually can still qualify. Pretty sure he needs to play every game the rest of the way, but let's assume maybe he doesn't. And considering they're out,
Jalen Johnson can miss one more game, so you are correct.
Miss one more game, okay. So it's really, we're just talking about Maxey, right? We're talking about Maxey. I should probably go check our text thread from last night because we were talking about this. Who else did I name? Some possible candidates.
Well, Benji, I thought had the best one we weren't considering, and it's DiVincenzo.
Yeah, I mean, look, DiVincenzo should get, like, DiVincenzo's in the category of like Lowe and Herring are doing their pod on this stuff, or actually, I think he does the most improved pod with David Thorpe. They're doing their pod in about a month, and like DiVincenzo absolutely should get consideration. Like, is he going to make like the final 3-man ballot? No, I don't think so. Some of the names that Kobe White is, I think, going to get absolute very serious consideration. Jonathan Kuminga. I think that's probably your top three right now is Maxey, White, and Kuminga. Guys, I mentioned Aaron Nesmith. I think Paolo has a case, just based on the shooting improvement. And like, I don't think it's crazy at all that Jalen Brunson should be in consideration. Like, if I was going to pick one Nick to get in consideration for this, I'd consider DiVincenzo. I consider Brunson, and like, it's weird because his the injury has kind of taken a little bit of the wind out of the sails, but like Hartenstein, like the Knicks have, I think, 3 legit candidates for this. Would RJ make my 3-man ballot this year? No, because I'm looking at the numbers, and the number that you can't ignore is 27. That's how many games he's been doing this over. And in terms of the actual numbers, assist percentage, which has been basically kind of flat for his entire career, between 12.4 and 14.6 in that little range. He's assisting on now 17.7% of Raptor-made field goals. It's very good. 88th percentile for a forward. But the big one is the efficiency. He's never been more than 106.3 points per 100 shot attempts. He's at 123. Like, is he materially impacting winning on a different level than he was in New York? I haven't watched the Raptors enough to say that. I don't want to just toss the Raptors record out there and say, like, that's enough for me to know that he is not, because I don't think that that's true. They are 2.4 points per 100 possessions better, according to Clean the Glass, when he plays. They're about the same on offense, whether he plays or sits, and they're a little bit better on defense, which I'm a little skeptical of that, because, like, you know, I shouldn't be skeptical of that. Maybe he's improved on defense too. I think he falls just on the outside of, like, the short list for me. Should he be in the top 10 this year? Yeah, I think he should probably be in the top 10 this year. That's fair. But how do you ignore the pre-migraine start to his season was 8 games, right? 8 games?
Just about 7-8 games.
7-8 games, whatever it was. I think 7. He played 19 games after that, because he played 26 total games with the Knicks. Those 19 games were atrocious. Yes. So, like, if he is on your ballot this year, you're basically like saying, not only has he improved from last season, he's improved from within this season.
One of the most unique cases that you'd have to make is that literally he improved from earlier in the season. However, I think people went a little crazy for Mikal last year when he was improving from earlier in the season, and he
wasn't bad.
That's the case so if Mikal went from, like, good role player to pretty great offensive player, two-way player, with more usage in Brooklyn, and they were losing, and RJ went from, like, bad role player to good role player.
Yeah.
Like, it's still an improvement.
Like, for a quarter of this season, RJ Barrett was actively, like, hurting his basketball team.
And now for a quarter of the season, he has a 61 effective field goal percent. Yes. I don't think the case is there to be made, because it's a quarter of the season. Like, this is a whole season reward. So I agree with you in that sense.
It's a third of the season. Let's give the guy credit. 27 games, a third of the season.
You're telling me to give RJ Barrett credit. I think I agree with you that 26 games is 26, 27, whichever one it is too small a sample size. I think you let in correctly with, like, if the trade was made in the offseason and he started this year, he'd probably be the front runner right now.
I don't know that he would be the front runner over Maxey. I think you could put him over. You could probably put him over Kobe White.
Lauri Markkanen won last year on a team that missed the playoffs. I know Lauri Markkanen made the All-Star team, but, like, Markkanen I thought had a real All-NBA case last year and didn't get there. He was really good. I mean, you probably do need some team success in order to make the case. I think RJ's in the top 3, if that's the case, then.
Sorry. The other thing because we're doing this, Markkanen went from being a role player to being a featured guy on a team that, when he was in the lineup, was a 500 team. And he was the guy. Yeah. Like, Barrett was the guy the other night against Denver, but for the vast majority of the time he's been doing this, he's been arguably number 3 behind Barnes and Quickly, which I think also has to be.
No, it's interchangeable. He's the 2. It's basically Barnes, right. And they don't really have an alpha at the moment. It's Barnes the way they play, but they really play like how the Knicks did when Jalen Brunson was out, and Randall was out, like the Hawks or the Pelicans game, where it's like, let's take turns having an alpha, you know? Yeah. Look, I don't think there's a case. I just think he's been awesome, and I think we're allowed to have that conversation without it being an indictment on the Knicks, you know?
Oh, we got some breaking news.
What? Oh, breaking news.
Per Mike Scotto. The Knicks have agreed to a second 10-day contract with Daquan Jeffries. Congratulations, Daquan.
Should I fire up the emergency podcast graphic or?
No, I don't think I will.
Good. Because I would fight you if that's how the RJ conversation got derailed. Okay. The next question from Mr. Fred Katz. This is for 5,000 Dogecoin. Jalen Brunson is shooting 34% from three and is taking fewer threes since Julius Randle got hurt. Considering that we don't know if Randle will come back and that if he does, we don't know how he will perform. How concerned are you with Brunson's three-point shooting? It's a pretty significant dip from where he was at the beginning of the season. I think I know your answer to this.
I don't. The way you said that now makes me scared to answer. Of course, I'm concerned. I'm concerned from a team-wide sense, because they this goes into what we were saying before. Like the Knicks, to reach their ceiling, they need Julius Randle to come back. Because like Brunson is being asked to do so much heavy lifting and he's not as effective without Randle. He can make a go of it again for short stretches here and there. And like, he'll have nights where he's hot from deep. He was 4 of 8 against the Sixers on Tuesday. And he's had other games where he's gotten hot from deep, but like by and large, like he's just being asked to do so much. I'm not concerned that like his shooting wasn't real or anything, because I don't think I ever, even though the numbers may have suggested that he should be in the category of like, you know, Steph and Luka, and I guess to a lesser extent like Donovan Mitchell, like there was enough of a mix in of getting good looks off of Randle's actions where he never elevated into that class for me. So the fact that he's dipped down because he's had to do so much, the sort of heavy lifting that those other guys have to do because they are the star on their team, and there isn't a Julius Randle for those guys. Like that's to be expected. And like it's not like he's dipped to like 25%. What did Fred say? It was 34?
34.
Yeah, like considering how few catch and shoot opportunities he's actually getting now, that's honestly, it's not terrible to me.
So I was wrong. I didn't know your answer. I thought you were going to be like, I'd like to see. Yes, it's a concern. I'd like to see this new data gathering span where we see what it looks like. He got good looks last night. Is where I was going with this. Like maybe it comes back that he has proper spacing and he can be a floor spacer across from Anunoby and not Precious Achiuwa. So
you want to see how the half measure does. This is a half measure because you're just getting more spacing on the floor. Yeah, that's fair. That's certainly. Well, I still don't think he's going to get as good a looks as he got with Randle. But again, there's always trade-offs.
Not at all. Better, as good of looks. Better looks is where I'll settle for right now.
Better looks. Yes, 100%. Yeah. Better looks are fine at this point.
Well, the next question number 6, for 40,000 yen from Fred Katz. Rotation question, John. It's another Randle Robinson question. I believe you might have answered this. Let's say Randle and Robinson are back. What do you do with Precious Achiuwa, Miles McBride, Alec Burks, and Bojan Bogdanovic? Basically, what's your playoff rotation if everybody is healthy? We turn injuries off on 2K.
Burks is out for sure.
Burks is out. Okay.
I got to tell you, I'm not sure where actually, let me rephrase that. I do know where Precious is getting minutes, and this is going to sound insane, maybe, but I'm going to put it out there, and I've as you referenced, I've sounded like an insane person before. I don't mind doing it again. Why can't the Knicks run 3 centers out there? In a 48-minute game. If we have a situation where, as of right now, yes, I understand they are ramping up Hartenstein with the intention of getting into a place where he could play 30 minutes a night. It's very possible that he's just a guy who's going to be more effective playing 20, 25 minutes a game. And it might keep him fresher for longer. It might lessen the risk of re-injury for an Achilles thing that like is clearly going to be dogging him and following him around for the rest of his career. So there's that part of it. Mitch. Okay, fine. Let's say Mitch is like quote unquote healthy. Where is his conditioning? I know he's running and jumping, right? Okay. Even so, we have seen Mitchell Robinson over the course of his career have these things, and then he comes back and it is a while before he looks like himself again. So is there a world where Mitch becomes a guy who it's like, go out there and give us everything you have for 6.5 minutes, something like that. So all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, let's just say Hartenstein's at 20, Mitch is at 15. Well, you got 13 minutes left, or it doesn't even need to be 13 minutes. Maybe it's 10 minutes left. Maybe it's 6 minutes left. Like, I think you may have time for like, Precious, go in there and give it everything you have for 5 minutes in this first half or something. And then maybe the second half, he goes on the outside looking in. That's my idea. I would not play him at the 4. I don't think they need to play him at the 4. I think the lack of spacing it with the rest of the roster and all the other considerations is too much of an issue. And I might have a similar role for Deuce. The notion of like completely taking Deuce out of the rotation, something about that doesn't sit right with me. I do not think he's more than a 5-minute a game player in the playoffs, but I think there is a use for him to come in and try to wreak havoc for 5 minutes a game. So assuming the healthy starting lineup, assuming obviously Hart is going to play, I've just named 3 other guys. That's 9 guys. So the question is Bogey my 10th? And it's kind of cheating because, again, 3 of the guys I've named are centers. I don't know, man. I'd keep running Bogey out there. For now. As of now, my answer is I'm going to keep running Bogey out there. I don't know that will be the same in 2 weeks, but right now I want to keep running him out there. So that's my answer. So the only follow-up is, it begs a follow-up. This question is about when everybody's back. So what does Bogey have to be? In fact, you know what? This leads to a next question, so it's good. For 1 ounce of lapis lazuli, I don't know if you know what that is. I don't know what that is. What is it? It's like it looks like a stone, like a royal kind of stone in Britain, in like Great Britain, like a royal stone. Listen, I think it's a royal form of currency, but like in stone. It looks like the stone from Uncut Gems, like the gem that Kevin Garnett wanted. I know what it looks like. So that's what it looks like, Fred. That's what lapis lazuli. I just spent most of the question having Google pronounce it in my ear. So anyway, are the Knicks not using Bojan Bogdanovic as well as they should? How much of his struggles are on him versus the way the Knicks are playing him? Yeah, I mean, I referenced it, I think, during the game the other day, that I saw there was a NBA University tweet saying that even with the Knicks, he was actually shooting better coming off of screens than he was in Detroit. But the nature of shots coming off of screens is that like someone else has created an advantage somewhere, is doing something, and it gives you the opportunity to kind of get the opportunity to have that be an open shot. I just think there's just no advantage creation at all right now on the floor when Bogey is out there. So then the question becomes, all right, well, how is there a world where you can get Bogey in a situation where an advantage has been created for him, which to me is code for should the Knicks be getting him more possessions with Jalen Brunson? And do you want to guess how many possessions of non-garbage time those two have gotten together since the trade? Is it over 100? It is 175. Oh, so it's almost 2. It's almost 200. Do you want to guess how many points per possession the Knicks are scoring during those 175 non-garbage time possessions? We'll say 115. They are at 104.6, which is significantly worse. several points worse than the worst offense in the league. Now, I will note that the most used lineup by far, 55 possessions, which is like 22 minutes or something like that, 25 minutes, I don't know, not a significant sample size, is Brunson, DiVincenzo, Hart, Bogey, and Achua. That group is scoring 114.5 per 100, so it's like a mediocre offense. They're also giving up 142.3, so it's not what you want. And if you want to blame it all on Alec Burks, it's tempting to do that because he's shared the floor with Burks a lot. 92 possessions. Again, it's like 40 minutes of Bogey and Brunson without Burks. Those lineups are scoring 101.1 points per 100 possessions and giving up 139.5. Again, these are ridiculously small sample sizes. Is that part of the argument that they should have spent a lot more time, fostering the relationship between Bogey and Brunson? Perhaps I would argue that, like, part of the reason you got him is to prop your bench up during the playoffs, so you're not going to be, those guys are not going to be sharing the floor a lot during those times. And like, you have guys who you want playing with Brunson instead of Bogey. So like, you're going to compromise what you're doing just to get Bogey going. Like, isn't that part of the trade? The notion that he kind of get himself going. I'm talking around in circles. I don't know how much more they could be doing right now. Are there probably better looks that they could be getting him? I'm sure they were asking him to initiate basically all of his possessions. I'm sure there's a way for others, whether it's Deuce or, but I was going to say or Burks, but that would require Burks passing the ball.
Yeah, that's the tough part. Is Burks is initiating for Burks.
Yeah, but like Burks is initiating for Burks, and he's not passing it worth a lick. I'm looking up right now. Alec Burks with the Knicks has a 9 assist percentage. That's pretty bad, right?
Bogey's worse.
No, but Bogey's. But again, we're talking about getting someone who could get Bogey good looks.
Mm-hmm.
Deuce McBride is 14.4% assist percentage, which for a combo guard, not even a point guard, for a combo guard, again, this according to Clean and Glass, 20th percentile league wide. So it's not like Deuce is initiating and starting the ball going downhill either a whole lot.
How much of that don't you put on like limited minutes, playing with guys that aren't hitting shots? Like, an assist only counts when your teammates are hitting shots, right?
Yeah. But like, how many possessions, like Bogey has missed good looks. Like, he has had open looks, but how many times has there been like a really great possession that gets Bogey like a really great, well, you know what? Maybe there have been some good possessions that have gotten Bogey some good looks that he just missed. I
think you hit on it, that seeing more time with Jalen Brunson, and if you want to put Deuce at the 2, or even Chenzo with the 2, or a connector at the 2, I think that'll give us a sample. Like, I'd love to see just him for Devo or him for Hart a few stretches, just to see, like, okay, your job is to be a spacer here. Let's believe in your gravity, and Brunson will initiate, or we'll use our ball movement. We'll use some off ball movement to get you better looks.
You know what we haven't seen basically at all? I'm going to confirm this. I think it's been like quite literally a handful of minutes. Hang on one sec. It is, 12 possessions. So like 5 minutes. So the numbers don't even matter. Brunson, Hartenstein, and Bogdanovic. Which, again, it's tough because, like, those are 2 of your starters. So you're basically talking about playing playing Bogdanovic with your starters. Should they have done? Maybe they should do that more. I don't know. Just because especially now, their starters are humming.
Honestly, that exercise was more of a, if you were going to do it over Precious, which ironically he did a couple times, and then he didn't on Sunday, and it was like, wow, that was actually the game I thought you should have went to Bogdanovic. Yet you chose him over Precious against Atlanta when Precious was cooking.
The argument, you know what the argument is? Here's the argument. The argument was, the day you made the trade, Bogey should have instantly slotted in as your starting four and played 35 minutes a night. And that's the argument. And you're just handing him the keys and you're saying, it's your show, big guy. We trust you. We believe in you. You are now instantly a pillar of this team. Would it have worked? Would he be shooting better? Would he be more comfortable? Oh, entirely possible. I'm a little bit skeptical because I've said this, I think I said it the other night, the best on-off guy by far since the trade has been Precious Achiuwa. They've fallen off a cliff when he has not been in there, and when he was in there, again, this is before this most recent game, they were outscoring their opponents. But I don't know. I think that's probably the argument. That's the argument. That's the argument.
I think you're right. I think could there be little things they do differently? Sure. He's largely just missed like looks. Like what he's doing at the rim right now, even more so, is alarming because if you're brought here for your shooting and you're missing shots, that happens. And he's like 38%, so he's not missing completely. But when you're not, what is it? The 20th percentile at the rim at the moment too, which would be by far a career low. So yeah, like he's missing everywhere.
But to anybody who wants to criticize the trade, to your credit, this is like, look, it's not as bad as the Cam thing. Cam thing was like on another level, but like this does, I think, show at least a little bit of a disconnect again between like, okay, we're going to get this guy, we're going to get these guys. How are you going to use them? You know, and what is it going to look like? Are we pretty sure that this thing is going to work as intended? I mean, I'm sure they talked to Tibbs about it beforehand. And look, Tibbs keeps running Bogey out there. I don't think Tibbs doesn't like Bogey. I don't think he doesn't want to play him.
I don't think this is even in the same stratosphere as the Cam thing. This is the Fournier signing in a vacuum. Like,
yes, that's the comp. That's exactly the comp. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, hey, I know this guy's bad at defense, but he'll boost your offense. He'll give you shooting. And Tibbs like, all right, well, I'll try to make it work. And then
I think Tibbs wanted Fournier.
I also think he wanted Bogdanovic, which is why
yes,
he wanted Alec Burks, which is why I think he's trying to exhaust it as much as possible.
That's exactly.
I also think if Bogey doesn't turn it around, the question may answer itself.
Yeah, look, everybody deserves blame here, but I mean, look, I think I don't want to say the lion's share. Let's say the majority of the blame deserves to go on the player himself. Like Bogey just needs to be better.
The number I referenced, the percentile at the rim, I was wrong, by the way. He's not in the 20th percentile. He's in the 3rd percentile. He's shooting 47% at the rim since going to the Knicks, which would be by far a career low, especially since he was in the 63rd percentile in Detroit. 2 more questions. This is the value of this is a lifetime supply of pinworm medication.
Oh, that's
for all the talk in the early season of Thibodeau using Josh Hart too much, Hart being more of a 20 to 25 minute player than a 25 to 30 minute a game player. Shout out Benji Ritholtz. What do you make of the fact that Hart is playing his best basketball while he's running on 40 plus minutes every night?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. As I want to answer this question, I also want to look. I'm going to look something up. So you're going to have to bear with me as I filibuster. I think the obvious answer is that the players will always, most players, a lot of players, especially a guy like Josh Hart, will feel more comfortable if they are playing more. Like, yes, they'll be tired, and obviously Josh Hart has complained quite openly about the fact that he is tired a lot and he has to play a ton of minutes. I get that, but I also think he knows, like, look, I'm getting run. I'm going to be out here whether I go 3 for 17 or whether I go, 9 for 12, like, cause I'm going to play my ass off. I'm not going to make mistakes. And for that reason, I know the coach is going to keep me out there. And he's not wrong. Like that has bore itself out because he has had games where he has not shot well at all. And the coach has kept him out there. When he is when he's been off. I filibustered for long enough. So this is the last. Let's go last 15 games because that's a nice, easy one to do. So over the last 15 games, in terms of total plus minus, last 15 games, the Knicks are getting outscored by 32 points total. Last 15 games. Josh Hart, during that time, when he has been on the floor, the Knicks have been outscored by 9 points. And that includes, by the way, the most recent game where he was a plus. What was he?
He's plus a lot. You should do the last 10 because that's the 10 since the All-Star break.
Okay.
Which is the stretch I believe Fred is talking about because since the All-Star break, he's averaging 42.3,
so
42.8 minutes per game. Just that. Okay. It's the last 10 games.
So last 10 games
the All-Star break.
Since the All-Star break,
and the Knicks played one game fewer than 40 minutes.
Okay. So the Knicks are outscoring teams by a total of 6 points. Their leader in plus minus during that time is Jalen Brunson, who is a plus 44. Josh Hart is a plus 14. And again, that factors in the last game, but then so does the total plus minus. I guess this is the reason I had a feeling this was what I was going to say, which is essentially like the Knicks aren't a ton better with Josh Hart on the floor over these 10 games. Like he's doing what he's doing and they need him to do what he's doing because they are out of bodies. But I can't sit here and say like that Josh Hart, for as well as he has played for what he is, has been like this magic elixir over these 10 games. He's playing a ton. He's doing a lot. He's doing everything that's asked for him to do. And thank God, because they don't have anybody else and he's doing a commensurate job of it. Like the Knicks are getting by because of him. But do I think that the answer is to play him 40 minutes a night? No, I don't. I still think he's a guy that, like we saw this last year when he came here, he was playing like 30 minutes a game. And I thought his impact was freaking great,
Yeah. I think to the spirit of Fred's question of like him personally playing his best ball, I do like you can't quantify motor and the fact that I don't know what him. Oh no, I do know what him tired looks like. That first half against Atlanta, we were all like, "Oh, Josh Hart is having a bad night," and then something just clicked in the second half. But for the most part, other players at the end of a game seem to need
tire out,
need an extra boost. I was my second home, the chase down, when I was talking to them about the Sam Merrill sub that was made in the fourth quarter of the Cavs game. And Carter was like, well, he was at the end of a very long shift. They needed to give him a breather. And that concept in Knicks land is just so foreign. Like, what do you mean a breather? Like, Deuce McBride came in when Jalen Brunson got hurt and didn't leave the game. And I think this is where you're going to love this. The Knicks identity that they formed under Tibbs is guys are prepared to play longer shifts. We'd see it where like Quickly would come into the game in the second, in the first quarter and the third quarter and just never leave for the rest of the half, right? Either one. Yeah. Like that's the culture that they've built here. And I think Josh Hart personifies that.
I do think that there is a world. It's not this roster. It's probably not this roster where Josh Hart is like a guy who is leading a contending team in minutes, but it's a very it's kind of an obvious example because of what Bruce Brown did there last year. But like if you put Josh Hart on Denver, like you're telling me that Josh Hart couldn't average 36 minutes a night on Denver with all the spacing they have and everything.
There's a version on this team that he might lead this team in minutes. Like if the Knicks, if Randall gets surgery, right? I could see Josh Hart just being like, all right, I'm the backup 3. I'm the pseudo backup point guard. I'm the backup 2.
Yeah, but
when Burks is gone,
it comes with a compromise here because they play a traditional 5. There are other places in the league where that compromise would not exist, like in Denver and like a few other places.
Well, to your point, you need special circumstances for that. For someone that is and the special circumstance with the Knicks is a combination of OG Anunoby and Jalen Brunson being awesome. And I wonder what the special circumstance in Denver, what would you put it as? I'm joking. It's Nikola Jokic being
I was
awesome.
about to say,
Yeah. They're the best player in the world. You could probably put us 5 out there and they'd win 50 games. Okay. Last question, John, from Mr. Fred Katz. The value of this one is the entire 12-part series of the history of baseball on VHS by Ken Burns.
I wish I had that. That's a great collector's item.
It's one of my favorite pieces of content that's ever existed. I shouldn't call it content. It's like, I call it art, but that's also me.
I remember when that came out.
Yes. I look at you. Speaking of my love language, baseball. Anyway, everyone is hurt in the East. The Cavs are hurting. The Pacers are hurting. The Sixers are hurting. Where do you think the Knicks finish? And the normal teams they could face in the first round, and of the normal teams they could face in the first round, who do you think could be the most ideal, realistic first round matchup for them? And of the current teams between 5 and 10, who's the one you fear the most? Well, you've said the answer to the last question a bunch of times.
The one I fear the most? It has changed a bunch of times, though.
I think I would say Indiana's 1 and Miami's 2 for you. That'd be my guess.
Hold on. Let me get back to that.
Just putting it out there.
I'll get back to that in a moment. So I'm going to cheat here for a second. So as of right now, this is Basketball Reference's playoff probabilities report. They have the Knicks they actually give the Knicks higher than a 20% chance at a top 3 seed, and then a 33% chance at the 4 seed, and a 23% chance at the 5 seed. So again, according to Basketball Reference, they basically put it at 56%. That the Knicks are going to finish either 4 or 5, and you could bump that up to over 75% that they finish with one of the first 5 seeds. This is tough. I was looking at their schedule again today. You know what's scaring me? A quick aside? And they had the lead on the Pacers early, and then they started to give it back. So I don't know how they're doing right now. By the time people are listening to this game will be over. But I was watching Bulls Pacers before. Like, the Bulls are playing. Like, the Bulls are playing. They're not always playing well. They got the piss beaten out of them by the Mavericks the other night. But they have played well now for like several months. Like, they've been an above 500 team for several months. They have a guy in DeMar DeRozan who's a pain in the ass to deal with. They have centers who in different ways are a pain in the ass to deal with. And that could give the Knicks kind of fits, although I don't know if that Vooch ever really hurts them. Like we talked about Kobe White before, like he's a guy like Caruso. Do you want to talk about a guy who gives the Knicks fits? Caruso gives the Knicks fits. Like Dosunmu's starting now. He's playing well. They have a bunch of guys. The Knicks play them 3 times down the stretch. Now, we would have looked at that. We've looked at that for most of the season and been like, oh, great, it's 3 wins. Well, now it's like, oh, I don't know about that.
They're going to be fighting for their playoff lives. So that I can't look at that as 3 wins. I do think the Knicks will be favored in all 3 games and should probably win all 3 games.
Of course. But the Knicks are going to be favored in a lot of these games. Doesn't mean they're going to win all of these games. Like, again, I think I mentioned this the other night. They have 2 games against Brooklyn left. Like, Brooklyn is I made the joke that half the team's in Cancun already. Brooklyn will come to play those games. Like, that Brooklyn will come to play those games. And they played the Knicks close already this season. Granted, Brooklyn was playing better basketball at that time, but
and then you chose to play their worst 3 quarters of basketball leading up to that 4th. You know,
that's fair. And then you have. Like, you go to Milwaukee, you have Sacramento at home, you have Oklahoma City at home. Like, it is not an easy schedule. Not a super hard schedule, but it's also not an easy schedule. All right, I've filibustered for long enough. I think they will finish. Man, I'm gonna go 4 or 5. Because I don't think they will, if they are in a position to tank for 6, which I don't know that they will be, I don't think they will do it. Yeah, man, the Magic have the tiebreaker, which is tough. I don't think the Magic are going away. Okay, I'll say 5. I'll say they'll finish 5.
And they'll play?
the Magic.
Okay.
And that is the team that I want to play the most. The team that I would want to play the least, is Embiid healthy or no?
The report yesterday indicated that sounds a lot like we'll see how you are going into the play-in. Like nowhere near returning means we're a month away and you're nowhere near returning.
I mean, if Embiid is in this game of the teams 5 to 10, they are the team that I fear the most. If Embiid is not back, then they are the team I fear the least, and that includes Orlando. If he's not back, who do I fear the most at this point? Man, yeah, it's Miami or Orlando, it's Miami or Indiana. For the most, shit. What's your answer to this?
As far as fear is concerned,
Fear the most between Indiana and Miami.
Miami. I have issues though.
No, I don't think you have issues.
I've deep-rooted years of. I mean, I used to watch football when my quarterback wasn't him, and I have a long history of being tortured by a boogeyman named Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, or named Bill Belichick on Tom Brady. And in baseball, there's been a boogeyman, and in a lot of the sports, there's been a boogeyman. The Heat are my boogeyman. So even if I think the Knicks will be better, we'll probably like be the better team going into that series. I'm just not. I'm not counting out like a Jimmy Butler elbow or a Jaime Jaquez Jr. elbow, and suddenly Anunoby's guy, they have to amputate his arm. You know,
I gotta tell you, I think we win that series.
I think we should. I also thought we should win last year.
I'm going for. I think we will. I think we would win that series. They were within a turnover of forcing a Game 7 at home, Madison Square Garden, when in that series, Jalen Brunson played well. Didn't shoot it great, but obviously played well because nobody shot it great in that series. Jalen Brunson played well. RJ Barrett played well for 5 games.
5 of 7 games. He was really good.
5 of 6 games.
Whatever. What I say? 16. Okay, 5 of 7. Yes. 5 of 6 games.
RJ played well for 5 of 6 games. Quentin Grimes had a moment, very important moment, a vital moment, but could not shoot the ball in the ocean from the beach. Quickly missed half the series, and for the games he was there was like a non-entity. Randall was bad. Who am I forgetting? Obi had a moment, I think, right? Obi had a moment there.
Obi had the first half of Game 5.
There you go. Obi had the first half of Game 5.
Between Hartenstein and Mitch, Spo just like kind of game planned against Mitch perfectly.
Mitch was
the offensive rebound machine that he was. They just, okay, get your rebounds. We're going to foul you right away.
Mitch was a non-entity, more or less. Hartenstein was good, but not like great. So like they had 1.5 guys really show up for that series. And again, it was almost a Game 7 back in the Garden. And I thought a bunch of Heat players played, at least, again, not everybody shot well, but I thought a bunch of Heat players played well. I didn't think a lot of Knicks players played well. Could you argue the Heat are better this year with Rozier? Maybe. The Butler injury happened. That was the thing. Missed the game, obviously. I think we're winning that series. I really do. I think we're winning that series. The Indiana one, I think we'd win that series too, but
more so than the Heat series, to be honest. I know you're spooked by their offensive ceiling.
I'm afraid of the margin for error.
I agree with you, but their margin for error goes both ways. They could beat the Thunder one night and have a nail biter against the Bulls the next night. I know that because that's literally what's happening tonight. They beat the Thunder last night and they're in a nail biter against the Bulls.
Like, yes, going into the Indiana series, you chalk it up that they're probably going to win 2 games and that you're probably going to win 2 games because of how they play. So all of a sudden, it's not a 7-game series. It's a 3-game series. A lot of shit could go wrong in a 3-game series.
Yes, on both sides. And I think we have more people that are better than their people.
I think we'd win. I think we'd win in 6. Look, how about neither? How about we take
Orlando? Okay.
Which, by the way, I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, I'm not. If it is Orlando, I'm preparing everybody right now. My attitude is not going to be like, oh great, book your tickets to Boston. No, like that is a serious fucking basketball team that is well coached, and they have an absolute freaking stud in Paolo Banchero. So that would talk about a series that would be a pain in the ass. That would be a pain in the ass series to play. I think we'd win in 5 or 6 games, but it would be a pain in the ass to play. And then you take your shot against Boston.
Knicks in 5 in the Orlando series. Maybe Knicks in 4, to be honest. They're a year away. This is their rehere season. They're just happy to be there. And to your Paolo, this is the history of the NBA. You need to go experience it first. And Joe Ingles is their playoff experience right now.
Yeah, I don't really. It's not as much the playoff experience thing that bothers me, because the Thunder don't have playoff experience either, and I think they could do a lot of damage. It's the shooting part of it, which they just don't have.
That too. Like, that's the basketball reason, but the historical reason, like, they're not built to. We saw it that Friday night, and this also goes to my other home, the Sixth Man Show. They're talking about it, like, yeah, they're just not ready to play big games. Now, what's funny is like. The best part about what the Magic ending up 4 would probably entail is like their schedule the rest of the way is just ridiculously easy. They just play nothing but home games the rest of the season. Yeah. And that might be how they get to 4. Whereas, the Knicks with a little more variance get 5, and then it's just 1 win in MSG Disney. And then we're back with home court advantage the rest of the series. Can
I tell you something that scares me a little bit in that series?
What?
Franz Wagner's very good. He's not had a great year. He's not had the year that people expected. And the biggest part of that by far is his shooting the basketball. He's shooting 29.5% from 3 this year. Mm-hmm. It is sunk his effective field goal percentage, which is 52.2. Like, wouldn't it be the Knicks' luck that Franz Wagner, who is a dude, and if you don't think he's a dude, go back and watch tape of FIBA. Like that dude's legit. He wouldn't put it past him to just all of a sudden wake up in the playoffs and like start making it in threes. But we hope that that's not the case.
You have a Franz, we have a Hulk, and his name is OG Anunoby.
I like that. Well, we know who OG's guarding in that series.
Guess what? He's gonna guard both, John. He's that good.
Man, I'm already thinking about matchups for that. Who's Randall guarding if Randall's back? I guess they put Randall on. You know what? They
pick a non-shooter. Like,
would you stick Randall on one of the guards?
Yeah, you just put him on Suggs, or you put him on Anthony Black.
I think no. I think
Brunson on Suggs makes more sense.
No, I think you're putting. No, I think you're hiding Brunson on whoever the 2 guard is, and then you're
Suggs or Black. Because I don't think they're going to play Fultz for that series. I think Fultz is going to be their Alfred Payton. He'll be out of this rotation.
So it's going to be Suggs or Black. I think you put Brunson on Black. I think you put DiVincenzo on Suggs. You put OG on Paolo. I think you put Randall on Franz and hope that Franz doesn't go off. And then
this goes to your like, is Josh Hart on the floor better than Randall on the floor? Because then you have a better defender guarding. Look, I think the Knicks would just have more offensive firepower than
I gotta tell you. Would. I think that's a big Randall series, because I think because the Magic have given this Knicks team fits defensively, and yes, I understand Randall has been in for some of those games. He had one in particular that is standing out in my mind, atrocious game against the Magic last year, but he's also had some nice moments against them, and I think. For as big as they are and for as tough as they are and all that stuff, I don't think they got an answer for Julius.
Can I go full semantics on you?
Sure.
They haven't given this Knicks team fits. They gave the last version of the RJ Emmanuel Quickly team fits, and Randall did go off that night. And the other game they beat them on MLK Jr. Day, Jalen Brunson didn't play. And then the other game they play, who played in that game? DiVincenzo was out. Charlie Brown Jr. and Jacob Toppin played minutes. Then we saw them with a semblance of a healthy roster on that Friday night, and that was JV versus varsity. If the Knicks are then healthy and Anunoby's back, Knicks in 5.
Yeah, I think that would be as of now, that would be my pick. Look, let's get there because we're sitting here talking 4 or 5 matchups. Knicks still have some work to do to stay out of the play-in, and if Indiana
animals,
wins,
I swear.
If it,
I'm staring at Cleveland, dude. That's where my focus is now transferred.
Well, Cleveland's beat again. I feel bad we're talking about this on a pod that this is all going to be moot by the time it drops. But like Cleveland's winning right now, as Indiana, like if they win tonight, they're a game back of the Knicks, and they have the tiebreaker in hand. So
they do.
You know, lot left to be decided. How about this? Beat fucking Portland. There's a goal.
Guess what I think they're going to do, John?
Beat Portland.
Beat the 18-46 Portland Trailblazers.
27th in the league in net rating. I did not realize their defense is actually respectable. Their offense is poo-poo.
Yes. That's why when you said yesterday they could score, I was like, I think you were saying they could score in the sense that they no. You were saying in the context of they could score more than 79 points, that the streak would end. Yes. And I think, yes, they'll get 80 tomorrow. You're right. I'll spot them 80 points.
Man, shout out DeAndre Ayton. Okay. This has been fun. Thank you to Fred Katz of The Athletic. Go subscribe to The Athletic. Go subscribe to Katz and Shoot on Patreon. These were great questions. I really, truly, they obviously made me think a lot. Thank you, Andrew, for being a good sport.
You're welcome, John.
And
thanks for being a good sport. Yeah. We give you shit on here, but we appreciate when you let us give you shit.
I eat pieces of shit like this for breakfast.
Huh? You eat pieces of shit?
I haven't watched that movie in a while. That was a rewatch.
Hold on. I was quoting Kanye. That's a line from Jesus Walks. What movie are you doing?
No, sorry, not Billy Madison. Happy Gilmore.
Happy Gilmore. Yes. And I eat
shit for breakfast.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. Both applicable. Sure.
Anyway, thanks everybody for checking out another episode of the show. Make sure if you didn't already, check out Andrew's pregame pod with Lemon Meringue.
It comes out after this. It's going to be up at 6 a.m. Eastern, so it'll be out after this. So check out the pregame pod with Lemon Meringue, Danny Meringue from the Jacked Ramsey's podcast out in Portland.
And don't forget to join Andrew and
Mensa
for the post game tonight. Thank you for your service. And we'll be back for Peace out.